Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Maz, and today we're looking at learning target number 2, and for this learning target we're working on identifying the different types of chemical reactions. So today we're specifically looking at only synthesis and decomposition reactions, and then Tuesday we'll cover single versus double replacement reactions. Wednesday we're looking at combustion reactions, and then your first quiz is going to be on Thursday. So if you want to add that into your assignments, you can. That would be your LT2 quiz, types of reactions. And the day we're taking that is Tuesday. And that's February 1st this week. Okay, so a synthesis reaction is a reaction when you have at least two or more substances. And why I say more is you can have more than two substances combining, but you're only making one new compound, which means you're going to have two substances for your reactants and one substance for your product. So you might have heard the word synthesis before, and synthesis simply means to build or create. So instead of breaking, we're taking two, we're putting them together and building one product. So think of that like when someone builds a building. You have many, many bricks and different pieces that go into it, but in the end, you have one building that's standing, even though you had many pieces that came together. So a simple way to look at a synthesis reaction is simply to count, find your arrow and draw a line across, where your reactants and products are, and then look and you have at least one substance here, and this would be your second. We have two making one product. So the opposite of a synthesis reaction is a decomposition reaction. And a decomposition just means you're taking at least one compound and you're going to break that into at least two or more simpler substances. So instead of ending with one, now we're starting with one. So you might want to circle that decomposition means not building, but breaking. So that's kind of like the opposite of building, like a building. If someone comes along, the building is falling apart, you take a wrecking ball and you smash the whole building apart. So you're taking one building and smashing it into many, many different pieces. So a really good example that would be our picture on the bottom. You have BC, so that's two letters. You can think of those as different elements of one substance that you're starting with, making a B and a C that are now separate. So you're ending with two elements or two different compounds for your product. So you have to have at least products in the end. Sometimes you can have more. So what we're doing for this next part is we're trying to fill in whether this reaction is a synthesis reaction or a decomposition reaction. And how you know is you're going to count, find your arrow and draw a line through it, count how many compounds or elements are on the reactant side and how many are on the product side. So on this one, we only have one circle. We have one compound, it's BC. And on the other side, you would count, you have two. You have one becoming two, think that like breaking down a building into many different pieces. That's called decomposition. In the next one, we have a compound here, and not a compound here, that's an element. And we have on the other side, we have two different substances making one. So if you have two making one, it's like building up a building with many bricks, making one building in the end. That's called a synthesis reaction. And I'm going to give you some time to work on the next. You have 3 examples on this page, and you have 4 on the next page. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, so you can write in synthesis or decomposition in the boxes. And remember, synthesis is building. You should have at least two compounds or two elements on the reactant side, making one product. Decomposition you should break, so you should have one substance breaking into at least two or more products. All right, and that's a minute, and I think that's enough time, so let's go through our answers here. The first one we have one substance making two. So that would be breaking down, that's called decomposition. The next one we have two different substances making one. Two making one would be building, and building is synthesis. And then last, chemical reaction, we have one substance into two. So one breaking into two should be decomposition. So check your work, you should have had decomposition, synthesis, decomposition, synthesis, and decomposition. Move on to the next page here. We have zinc and iodide, that's two separate substances making zinc iodide, which is just one. So you have two making one, that would be building, that is called a synthesis reaction. Okay, and then we have two different substances making only one. That is still a synthesis reaction because you're building. And in the third one we have CaCO3 making CaO, and the carbon dioxide, that is one substance breaking into two. Breaking would be decomposition. And in the last one, we have carbonic acid, which is one compound making water, and carbon dioxide, which is two different compounds. You have one splitting or breaking into two different compounds. Breaking is decomposition. Check your work, you should have had synthesis, synthesis, decomposition, decomposition. And your sub is going to hand out the synthesis versus decomposition then foldable, which needs to be glued on the very bottom of the page we're on right now. Once you've got it glued in, you're going to answer the questions on the inside. And as soon as you finish, you can raise your hand. The sub will come and check, make sure you actually hit the foldable. And then we will hand out a worksheet. So it's very similar to what we did on our notes. All you're going to do is write synthesis or decomposition, and then you need to balance the equations, which is what we did on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week. And that worksheet is going to be due at the end of the hour. And if you don't do it at the end of the hour, you will not be getting points. So make sure you quickly finish your Venn foldable, I'll check that when I get back on Tuesday, and then get your worksheet done and turn that in. If you have extra time and you finish your worksheet, you finish your Venn foldable, you can work on your flip notes. That's what I gave you on Friday after the quiz. And if you're all finished with that, you can have some free time as long as you're not distracting your classmates. I will see you guys on Tuesday.